some people, and I'm not one of them necessarily, but I wonder what you might say. So some people might say, look, when we talk to each other and I say I'm in pain and I have a throbbing headache, and you say, oh man, that's terrible. I know what that's like. Yeah. We have to be able to communicate. So we are talking about the same thing, right? My pain, in a sense. And these kind of direct concepts that we're talking about seem essentially private. Like they're only concepts that I can have. But in order for us to be talking about the same thing, it seems like you have to have the same concept as I. So some people would take this as an argument that these kinds of things have to be public language concepts. In order for us to be talking about the same thing at all, there has to be some common concept between us. And so I just wonder what your response to that kind of, that's supposed to present a kind of foothold for skepticism about the starting point. It's not one I'm especially sympathetic to, but I do think it's serious. So I wonder what you think.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I thought about this a lot when I debated, I had a department at CEU in Budapest who's very good Wittgensteinian, Hanok Benyami, and there's an audio recording of that on my website somewhere. But I can't remember what I think now.
Well, I'll link to the audio and then maybe you'll remember.
I mean, I guess I sort of think, I think that David Papineau's got a very good article, which I kind of broadly agree with. I think that we are hardwired to sort of assume we're both talking about the same thing when we, or hardwired just to assume someone's in pain when they exhibit various behavior. And I don't see why that couldn't get. So the Wittgensteinian argument is supposed to show that it's supposed to show that they're incommunicable, but also on the basis that they're just empty and the view's incoherent. And I've always done the main move, question begging. What does Wittgenstein say? Something like, what's the key line? I know I'm right or something, and so which means that there is no right. And I sort of think, no, that's just question begging. Anyway, but I don't see why the communicability problem can't be just answered by just, that we're just hardwired to make certain phenomenal attributions when we see certain behavior, and to assume, and then when society gets going, we assume that we both, what it's like for me to see tomatoes is the same as what it's like for everyone else to see tomatoes, and we just make these assumptions and we get on with it. And
but just to press this a bit further, I think the kind of crux of the argument here is whether or not we have the same concept. So you're comfortable denying that. Like when you say you're in pain, when I say I'm in pain, and you say, wow, you really are in pain, you're employing a different concept than I am, because you're employing a concept that's based on my behavior and making assumptions related to your personal concept about it's like this to be in pain or something like that. But so we're strictly speaking talking past each other if we're not employing the same concept. Isn't that right?
I don't want to say that. So what's gone wrong? I mean, as I say, we're going to distinguish experiential concepts in general from these paradigmatic, direct experiential concepts where you just attend to your own pain and think. But they're just, one kind. We can, I can think of pain in all sorts of ways. I can think of pain experientially when I'm not feeling it. And I think what I do, I see you exhibiting behavior and I think you're in pain, and I employ an experiential concept when I do that. And it's a difficult philosophical question. How do I know you really are? Given that I know about pain from my own case, how do I know you really are in pain? How do I know what it's like for you to see colors is the same? This is an interesting skeptical difficulties arise here, but there are skeptical difficulties all over the place. How do we know there's an external world? So I assume it's, rationally legitimate to assume other people have minds and that these assumptions are somehow rational.
Yeah, but that's not the real worry that I'm trying to get at. I agree with all the things you just said, but doesn't it seem, so suppose I say I'm in pain and I am on the basis of my utterance, that the justification of that utterance is a direct phenomenal concept. And then you say, no, you're not, because I'm not limping or howling and I don't seem distracted and I can do math and all those sorts of things, as easy as I normally could anyway. So it seem like you should be contradicting me, but you're not contradicting me, because we've said different things. I've expressed the direct, I'm expressing a thought that has as a part of its concept a direct phenomenal concept, and you're using a different concept, a public language concept of pain. So it just seems like a kind of common sense datum should be that we're disagreeing when I say I'm in pain on this basis and you say, no, you're not. And it doesn't seem like this kind of starting point gets that right. You're not really disagreeing with me, in other words.
Well, I don't think when I ascribe pain to you, it is a behavioral concept. I don't think
well, public language concept. I mean, one that's ordinary third person and not.
I think it's an experiential concept. I think we both employ an experiential concept. And the question is, how do experiential concepts get into public language? And the thought would be that, well, we just partly hardwired, partly socialized to take certain forms of behavior as evidence of someone having certain experiences. But that doesn't mean it's a behavioral concept or so I would say it's an experiential concept. And there's a bit of trickiness here, and it's partly an empirical question. How do these experiential concepts enter into public language? And clearly the direct ones can't, but the more general ones. Or can the direct? Or at least the other ones can. And it's something to do with just, these hardwired or socialized assumptions we make about taking certain forms of behavior as evidence for having certain experiences.
Okay, so I'm still not quite getting the sense in which we're disagreeing.
Because we're both employing the same concept. It's an experiential concept.
But mine's direct and yours is not, so it's not the same concept?
When you're employing a direct concept.
I mean, I thought that was the move you were making earlier, was that on the one hand, there's two different concepts. One's an experiential one, which somehow involves you thinking about the thing when you're not having it. The other one's direct, when you kind of just take it up and say, this is my pain experience. This is the painfulness of it or something.
Well, but they're not sort of two different, I mean, they're different classes of the same concepts. So they're, it's just, I mean, the direct ones are the kind of paradigmatic, and there's a relationship. So, we have these paradigmatic forms, and then on the basis of that, we form a so I have, I'm feeling pain and I attend to my specific pain, but then we form, more general concepts of the general concept of pain. And you make me think, actually. I suppose maybe there are some details I need to sort of think about. But I mean, I suppose when you ascribe pain to yourself, maybe you're employing the direct one, but you're also generally employing a general notion of pain, which is very intimately related to the direct one. And that's the one that enters into public language. Do I want to say that? I'll have to think about that, whether the direct ones are in public language. I mean, certainly I can, I'm not sure. Maybe
okay.
So there are tricky issues here, I suppose. I'm not impressed there's any kind of insuperable difficulties or reasons to think that the concepts are not coherent, but no.
Okay, and so can I go ahead then and segue?